My child, stop scrolling for a moment. This message is not an accident. You may think you clicked on this video randomly. You may think these words appeared before you because of chance. But deep inside, there is a reason you stayed. There is a reason your eyes are reading these words right now. Because I know something about you that many people around you do not. I know how tired you are, not physically tired, soul tired. The kind of tiredness that comes from giving your best and being overlooked. The kind that comes from showing up for people who barely notice your presence. The kind that settles into your heart after years of feeling invisible. My beloved child, I have seen every moment. I have watched you sit quietly while others received recognition. I have watched people celebrate those around you while acting as if you were standing behind a wall. I saw the conversations where your voice was ignored. I saw the opportunities that seemed to pass directly by you. I saw the friendships that slowly faded. I saw the messages that never came. I saw the invitations that never arrived. I saw the moments when you smiled outwardly but wondered inwardly if anyone truly cared. And what hurt the most was not the rejection itself. It was the silence, because silence makes people question their value. Silence makes people wonder if they matter. Silence makes people ask questions they were never meant to ask. Questions like, what's wrong with me? Why am I always overlooked? Why does everyone else seem to move forward while I remain stuck? My child, listen carefully. The enemy wanted you to interpret your isolation as proof that you were forgotten. But I am telling you now, you were never forgotten, not for a single second. In fact, what appeared to be rejection was something entirely different. And before I reveal what it was, I need you to stay with me, because what you are about to understand could completely change how you see your life. You thought people ignored you because you lacked value. But what if the opposite was true? What if they ignored you because I was already setting you apart? What if the loneliness you've been carrying was not evidence of abandonment, but evidence of preparation? Think about Joseph. His brothers looked at him and saw a dreamer, a nuisance, someone easy to dismiss, someone easy to throw away. But while they were rejecting him, I was already writing the story of his promotion. They thought they were removing him. I was positioning him. They thought they were ending his future. I was beginning it. And some of you, listening right now, are living inside that same mystery. People walked away. People underestimated you. People dismissed your gifts. People overlooked your kindness. People failed to recognize your worth. Yet they had no idea what I could see. They only saw your present condition. I saw your future assignment. They saw your weakness. I saw your calling. They saw your waiting season. I saw your becoming season. My child, there are things I show only to those who remain through the silence. And this is one of them. Many people believe elevation begins when doors open, but often elevation begins when doors close, when fewer people call, when fewer people understand, when fewer people stay, because separation always comes before promotion. Do not miss this. Stay with me. This next part matters deeply. You keep wondering why certain relationships disappeared, why certain friendships cooled, why certain people suddenly became distant. You thought something had gone wrong. You thought you had failed somehow. But what if I was protecting something they could not see? What if I was removing voices that would have damaged your confidence before your breakthrough arrived? What if I was protecting your future from the opinions of people who were only assigned to a temporary chapter? My beloved, not everyone who enters your life is assigned to your destiny. Some people are assigned only to a season. Some are assigned only to a lesson. And when their purpose is complete, I begin moving them away. The painful part is that while I am protecting you, it often feels like abandonment. While I am separating you, it often feels like rejection. While I am preparing you, it often feels like isolation. That is why so many people quit during the hidden season, because they misunderstand what is happening. But you must not misunderstand this season. Not anymore, because there is something you still cannot see, something hidden, something quietly unfolding beneath the surface. like a seed buried underground. The world looks at a buried seed and assumes it has disappeared, but the seed knows something the world does not. Growth is happening where nobody can see it. Roots are developing where nobody can applaud it. Transformation is occurring in complete darkness. My child, your life has been more like that seed than you realize. The people around you only see what is visible, but I see what is invisible. I see the strength you developed through disappointment. I see the wisdom you gained through suffering. I see the patience you learned through waiting. I see the faith you built through uncertainty. Nothing has been wasted, not one tear, not one lonely night, not one unanswered prayer, not one painful memory. Everything has been serving a purpose greater than you understand right now. This is why I want you to remember these words from my scripture. Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. Psalm 27:10. Notice what the verse does not say. It does not say rejection will never happen. It says, I will receive you when it does, because your security was never meant to come from people. It was meant to come from me. The people who overlooked you never controlled your future. The people who ignored you never held your destiny. The people who rejected you never possessed the authority to determine your worth. Only I do, and my opinion of you has never changed. Not when others walked away, not when others misunderstood you, not when others doubted you, not when you doubted yourself. My child, I have always known exactly who you are, and soon, very soon, you will begin seeing evidence of what I have been doing behind the scenes. Not because you forced it, not because you chased it, not because you convinced people to believe in you, but because my timing is approaching. The same people who overlooked you will begin noticing something different. The same people who dismissed you will start seeing what they missed. The same people who ignored your presence will recognize a strength they never saw before. But listen carefully, this is not the most important part. The most important part is what happened inside you while nobody was watching. Because before I elevate a person publicly, I transform them privately before I reveal them. I conceal them before I promote them. I prepare them. And that preparation is exactly what your hidden season has been about. But there is something even deeper that you still don't understand. Something that explains why this season lasted so long. Something that explains why heaven allowed you to remain unseen for longer than you expected. And once you understand it, your entire perspective on your loneliness will change forever. Because the hidden season was never punishment, it was purpose. And in the next part, I am going to reveal why I kept you hidden when you begged me to be seen. Stay with me. The answer is closer than you think. My child, listen carefully, because what I am about to reveal may heal a wound you have carried for far too long. For years, perhaps without realizing it, you have viewed your hidden season through the lens of loss. You saw opportunities passing by. You saw others moving ahead. You saw people receiving recognition while your efforts remained unnoticed. And slowly, quietly, a dangerous question began forming inside your heart. Why am I still here? Why is everyone else being seen while I remain hidden? Why does it feel like my life is moving slower than everyone else's? My beloved, I know those questions. I heard them every time they formed in your mind. I heard them during the nights when sleep would not come. I heard them when disappointment settled heavily upon your spirit. I heard them when you wondered whether I had forgotten the promises I placed inside your heart. But today, I need you to see your story differently. Because the hidden season was never punishment. It was preparation. You thought I was delaying you. I was developing you. You thought I was withholding something from you. I was building something within you. And there is a tremendous difference between the two. The world celebrates what is visible. I focus on what is sustainable. The world rushes toward exposure. I prepare people for responsibility. The world rewards appearance. I build character. This is why many people rise quickly and fall just as quickly. They receive opportunities their character was never prepared to carry. They obtain influence their spirit was never equipped to manage. They achieve success before developing wisdom, and eventually, the weight of their promotion crushes them. But I love you too much to allow that. My child, some of the delays you cried over were actually acts of mercy. Some of the doors you begged me to open would have introduced burdens you were not yet ready to carry. Some of the people you desperately wanted to keep would have distracted you from the assignment I prepared for you. You saw loss. I saw protection. You saw delay. I saw development. You saw silence. I saw growth. And what makes growth difficult is that it often happens where nobody can see it. Consider the seed buried beneath the ground. The seed does not receive applause. The seed does not receive recognition. Nobody celebrates the seed while it is hidden beneath layers of darkness. From the outside, it appears as though nothing is happening. Yet beneath the surface, everything is happening. Roots are stretching. Strength is forming. Life is emerging. Preparation is occurring. And this, my child, is exactly what I have been doing inside you. While you were focused on what was missing, I was focused on what was growing. While you were looking for evidence around you, I was producing transformation within you. Because before I can trust someone with greater influence, I first develop greater depth. Depth always comes before elevation. This is why your hidden season lasted longer than you expected. I was building roots, and roots take time. Anyone can stand tall for a moment. Few can remain standing during a storm. That is why I was strengthening the unseen parts of your life. I was teaching you how to trust when circumstances offered no reassurance. I was teaching you how to remain faithful when recognition never came. I was teaching you how to continue walking when results seemed absent. And every lesson was shaping the person you are becoming. But there is another reason I kept you hidden. A reason many people never understand. My beloved, valuable things are protected. Think about this. People do not hide what they consider worthless. They hide what they treasure. Gold is stored securely. Precious jewels are protected. Important documents are locked away. Treasures are concealed, not because they lack value, because they possess value. And in the same way, I concealed you, not because you were insignificant, because you were important. Not because you lacked purpose, because your purpose mattered. Not because you were forgotten, because you were chosen. Remember the words spoken through the prophet Isaiah. He made me into a polished arrow and concealed me in his quiver. Notice that image carefully. A polished arrow. Prepared, sharpened, ready, yet still hidden. Why? Because an arrow is not displayed before its appointed moment. It is protected until the time arrives for release. My child, there were seasons when you begged me to reveal you. You prayed for visibility. You prayed for recognition. You prayed for opportunities, and sometimes my answer was, not yet. Not because I was ignoring you, because I was preserving you. There were battles you never saw. There were dangers you never recognized. There were situations from which my hand quietly shielded you. You may never fully know how many disappointments were actually acts of protection. How many closed doors were acts of mercy. How many delays were expressions of my love. But one day you will understand. One day you will look backward and see that what appeared to be rejection was actually redirection. What appeared to be abandonment was actually preparation. What appeared to be silence was actually strategy. And when that understanding arrives, your heart will finally rest, because you will realize I was working all along. Even when you could not see me, even when you could not feel me, even when you doubted me, I was working quietly, faithfully, patiently, preparing a future larger than your current perspective could comprehend. Stay with me now, because this next truth is important. The hidden season was not only about protecting you, it was also about separating you. There are environments where your calling cannot grow. There are relationships where your purpose cannot flourish. There are rooms where your future cannot survive. And before I elevate someone, I often remove them. Not because I wish to hurt them, because I wish to prepare them. Joseph was separated before he was promoted. David was isolated before he became king. Moses spent years in obscurity before leading a nation. Even my greatest servants experienced hidden seasons, not because they lacked favor, because favor was already operating. The hidden season is often evidence that heaven is preparing something greater than what is currently visible. And that is where many people quit. They quit because they confuse concealment with abandonment. They mistake preparation for rejection. They interpret silence as absence. Do not make that mistake, not anymore. Because the very fact that you survived this season is proof that I have been carrying you. The very fact that you are still here is proof that my hand has remained upon your life. The very fact that hope still exists inside you is proof that your story is not over. In fact, it is only beginning. And if these words are speaking directly to your spirit, I want you to do something right now. Type, God was preparing me. Not because your journey is finished, but because your perspective is changing. And when perspective changes, everything begins to change. My child, I know the loneliness felt real. I know the waiting felt endless. I know the silence felt confusing. But there was purpose in every moment. Purpose in every delay. Purpose in every closed door. Purpose in every season of obscurity. You were never hidden by accident. You were hidden by design. You were never forgotten. You were being formed. You were never abandoned. You were being prepared. And soon, very soon, you will begin to understand why heaven invested so much time building roots before revealing fruit. Because the people who ignored you only saw your silence. They never saw what I was building underneath. And in the next part, I will reveal something even deeper. I will show you why some of the doors that broke your heart had to close. Why some of the people you wanted to keep had to leave. And why what felt like loss was actually one of the greatest acts of protection I ever performed in your life. Stay with me. The truth behind those closed doors is about to be revealed. My child, there is something you have been carrying for a long time. A question, a wound, a memory that still visits your heart when the room becomes quiet. You rarely speak about it now. You have learned how to continue living. You have learned how to smile. You have learned how to move forward. But deep inside, there is still a part of you that wonders, why did that door have to close? Why did that relationship end? Why did that opportunity disappear? Why did the future you imagined suddenly fall apart? My beloved, I know exactly which door you are thinking about. I know the one that seemed perfect, the one you prayed over, the one you hoped would finally change everything, the one you believed was the answer. You stood before that door with expectation. You invested your emotions into it. You imagined your future through it. You pictured your life on the other side. Then suddenly, it closed. And when it closed, it felt as though a part of your heart closed with it. You cried, you questioned, you searched for explanations. You replayed conversations. You wondered if you made a mistake. You wondered if you failed somehow. You wondered if I had abandoned you. But, my child, what if that closed door was actually one of the greatest acts of protection I ever performed for you? Stay with me, because this truth has the power to heal years of confusion. You see, human eyes can only see the front of a door, but I see what waits behind it. You see opportunity, I see consequences, you see potential. I see outcomes, you see today, I see tomorrow. And there have been moments in your life when you begged me to open something that would have eventually broken you. Not because it looked bad, because it looked good. Some of the most dangerous doors are not obviously harmful. They appear attractive, promising, exciting, comforting. That is why they are difficult to release. If every wrong door looked ugly, nobody would struggle to let go. But often the greatest tests arrive disguised as blessings. That is why you must trust my vision more than your own. Because I see what cannot yet be seen. I see conversations that have not happened. I see betrayals that have not occurred. I see dangers hidden behind smiles. I see traps disguised as opportunities. I see storms beyond clear skies. And sometimes my protection comes in the form of a closed door. I know that is difficult to accept, because protection rarely feels like protection in the moment. When Joseph was thrown into a pit, it did not feel like protection. When David was running through the wilderness, it did not feel like protection. When Moses spent years in obscurity, it did not feel like protection. Yet later they understood. What felt painful was actually preparation. What felt unfair was actually guidance. What felt like loss was actually redirection. And now, my child, I want you to look at your own life through that lens. Think about the people who left, the people you begged to stay, the people whose absence broke your heart. At the time, all you could see was the pain of losing them. But today, I ask you a different question. What if their departure protected your peace? What if their departure protected your purpose? What if their departure protected your future? You were grieving the loss. I was guarding the assignment. You were holding on to memories. I was preserving destiny. Because not everyone who walks beside you is capable of walking into your next season. Some people are comfortable with the version of you that stays small. Some people celebrate you only when you remain beneath them. Some people support your journey only until your growth begins making them uncomfortable. And when I begin raising you higher, those people often remove themselves. Not because you failed, because the season changed. My child, hear me carefully. Do not chase people I removed. Do not reopen doors I closed. Do not rebuild what I dismantled. Trust me enough to believe that if I allowed something to leave, I had a reason bigger than your current understanding, a reason bigger than your emotions, a reason bigger than your disappointment. Because my plans extend beyond this moment. There are paths I am protecting, blessings I am preserving, opportunities I am arranging, people I am preparing to bring into your life. And none of those things can fully arrive while you remain attached to what I have already asked you to release. This is why healing is so important, because wounded hearts often keep staring at closed doors. Meanwhile, new doors are quietly opening nearby. But there is something even deeper, something most people never realize. Sometimes I close doors not because something is wrong behind them, but because something better is ahead. My beloved, if I showed you today everything I am preparing for you, your fears would disappear instantly. You would stop mourning certain losses. You would stop questioning certain delays. You would stop regretting certain endings, because you would finally see what I see. You would understand that some endings were necessary for your growth, necessary for your future, necessary for your calling, that job you lost, that relationship that ended, that opportunity that disappeared, that path that suddenly collapsed. You thought it was the end of your story, but it was only the end of a chapter. The story itself continues, and I am still writing it. In fact, some of the greatest chapters have not even begun yet. That is why I need you to release your grip on what was. You cannot receive tomorrow while living inside yesterday. You cannot embrace new blessings while refusing to release old disappointments. You cannot walk through the door ahead while staring at the one behind. My child, I know letting go is difficult. I know healing takes time. I know some memories still carry pain. But listen closely. The future I prepared for you is greater than the loss you experienced. The purpose ahead is greater than the disappointment behind. The blessing approaching is greater than the door that closed. That is my promise. Remember what happened to Joseph. His brothers sold him. His position vanished. His future appeared destroyed. Yet years later, he could say something extraordinary. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Genesis 50:20. Notice those words. God intended it for good. Not after it happened, during it, while it was unfolding, while it was painful, while it was confusing, while it seemed unfair. I was already working. And the same is true for you. I was working while you cried, working while you waited, working while you questioned, working while you felt abandoned. working while the door was closing, and even now, I am working. You may not see every piece moving. You may not understand every delay, but heaven is not inactive. Your story is not stalled. Your future is not forgotten. Everything is moving according to a purpose bigger than your present perspective. If these words are speaking directly to your spirit, pause for a moment and declare, God protected me through the closed doors, not because you fully understand yet, but because you are beginning to trust. Trust that my vision extends beyond your own. Trust that my plans are still good. Trust that my timing is still perfect. Trust that what I remove is never greater than what I prepare. And stay with me, my child, because there is another truth you must hear. The pain you experienced was not meaningless. The betrayal was not meaningless. The rejection was not meaningless. The humiliation was not meaningless. In the next part, I will reveal how the very pain that almost broke you became the training ground for the elevation that is coming. Because what wounded you did not destroy you, it prepared you. And the lessons hidden inside your suffering are about to become one of your greatest strengths. Stay close. The deeper purpose behind your pain is about to be revealed. My child, there is something I need you to understand. Something that may completely change the way you view every painful season you have ever endured. For a long time, you believed your suffering was evidence that something was wrong. You thought the struggle meant you were falling behind. You thought the rejection meant you lacked value. You thought the betrayal meant you had been abandoned. You thought the hardship meant I was distant. But my beloved, what if the very things you feared were destroying you were actually preparing you? What if the pain had a purpose? What if every difficult season carried a lesson your future desperately needed? Stay with me, because this truth explains why some of your hardest battles lasted longer than you expected. You see, most people pray for elevation. Few people pray for preparation. Most people want the crown. Few people want the training. Most people desire the promise. Few people desire the process. But the process is what makes the promise sustainable. Without preparation, promotion becomes dangerous. Without character, success becomes destructive. Without wisdom, influence becomes a burden. That is why I allowed certain challenges to remain longer than you wanted. Not because I enjoyed your suffering, because I loved you too much to leave you unprepared. My child, every battle was teaching you something. The betrayal taught discernment. The loneliness taught dependence on me. The waiting taught patience. The disappointment taught endurance. The closed doors taught trust. The criticism taught resilience. The silence taught faith. Nothing was random. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was meaningless. Even the seasons you wish had never happened were accomplishing something deeper than you could see. Think about David. Before he became king, he faced lions, he faced bears, he faced isolation. He spent countless days in fields where nobody noticed him. Those days seemed insignificant, but they were not. The field prepared him for the palace. The battles prepared him for authority. The loneliness prepared him for leadership. And in the same way, your hidden battles have been preparing you for things you do not fully understand yet. Because elevation requires strength, and strength is rarely developed during easy seasons. Strength grows during resistance. Strength grows during pressure. Strength grows during difficulty. Gold is refined by fire. Diamonds are formed under pressure, and character is built through adversity. My beloved, some of the strongest qualities inside you today were born from seasons you never wanted to experience. The compassion you carry came from your pain. The wisdom you possess came from your mistakes. The empathy you show others came from your own wounds. The strength inside you emerged from battles nobody else saw. If everything had always gone according to your plans, you would not be the person you are today. You would not have developed the depth you now possess. You would not have learned how to survive difficult seasons. You would not have discovered the strength I placed within you. The very struggles you wished to avoid revealed abilities you never knew you had. And there is another truth I need you to hear. Some of the people who hurt you were unknowingly part of your preparation. I know that sounds difficult, but stay with me, because this matters deeply. The people who betrayed Joseph pushed him toward his destiny. The people who doubted David strengthened his dependence on me. The people who opposed Moses developed the leadership he would later need. Their actions were painful, their choices were wrong. Yet I still used those experiences for a greater purpose. And I have done the same for you. I never approved of the hurt. I never celebrated the betrayal. I never desired the wounds, but I refused to let them be wasted. I took what was meant to weaken you and used it to strengthen you. I took what was meant to discourage you and used it to develop you. I took what was meant to stop you and turned it into preparation. That is what I do. I redeem, I restore, I transform. And even now, I am transforming things you still do not understand. My child, there were nights when you cried because you thought you were losing. But heaven saw something different. Heaven saw growth. Heaven saw maturity. Heaven saw character being formed. You were becoming stronger even while feeling weak. You were becoming wiser even while feeling confused. You were becoming ready even while feeling delayed. And one day you will look back and realize that your greatest growth happened during the seasons you wanted to escape. Because pain has a way of revealing what comfort never can. Pain exposes priorities. Pain reveals character. Pain uncovers strength. Pain teaches lessons success often hides. This is why some of the strongest people carry the deepest scars. Not because scars are desirable, because they tell the story of survival. They tell the story of someone who refused to quit, someone who kept walking, someone who continued believing, someone who endured, and that person is you. My beloved, I know there were moments when you wanted to give up, moments when the burden felt too heavy, moments when discouragement whispered that nothing would ever change, moments when fear suggested your future had already been decided. But you kept going. You are still here. You are still listening. You are still standing. That alone should tell you something. You are stronger than you think. Much stronger, not because of your own power, because I have been strengthening you through every season. And now I want you to understand something many people never discover. The battle was never only about surviving, it was about becoming. Becoming the person capable of carrying the blessing. Becoming the person capable of managing the opportunity. Becoming the person capable of sustaining the promotion. Because what I am preparing for you requires a version of you stronger than the one who entered this season. That is why growth was necessary. That is why development was necessary. That is why preparation was necessary. My child, your future is larger than your current understanding. And because of that, your preparation had to be larger as well. The greater the assignment, the deeper the preparation. The greater the calling, the stronger the foundation. The greater the elevation, the more important the training. This is why I did not remove every obstacle. This is why I did not eliminate every challenge. This is why I sometimes allowed you to walk through difficult places. Because I could see who you were becoming, and who you are becoming is extraordinary. You may not fully see it yet, but I do. I see the strength. I see the wisdom. I see the maturity. I see the resilience. I see the character. I see the transformation. And I am pleased with what is developing inside you. Now hear these words carefully. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. Romans 8:28. Notice what the scripture says. All things, not some things, not only the pleasant things, not only the easy things, all things. The victories, the failures, the blessings, the disappointments, the joy, the pain. I am able to work through all of it. Nothing is beyond my ability to redeem. Nothing is beyond my ability to transform. Nothing is beyond my ability to use for good, including the very thing that hurt you most. If these words are speaking directly to your spirit, I want you to pause and declare, God was training me, because that is exactly what has been happening. The pain was training you. The waiting was training you. The rejection was training you. The struggle was training you. And the training is almost complete. But do not leave yet, because there is something even more surprising ahead. The people who judged your current chapter never understood what was happening behind the scenes. They looked at your temporary condition and assumed it was your permanent identity. They looked at your struggle and assumed it was your future. They looked at your waiting season and assumed your story was finished. They were wrong. In the next part, I will reveal why people misjudged you, underestimated you, and failed to recognize what I was creating inside you. Because they judged the seed while I was growing the tree. Stay with me. The truth about why they underestimated you is about to be revealed. My child, there is a painful reality many people discover too late. Most people judge what they can see. Very few people recognize what is still becoming. That is why so many are misunderstood during the seasons that matter most. That is why dreamers are often doubted before they are celebrated. That is why those carrying great purpose are frequently overlooked before they are revealed. And that is why many people misjudged you, not because they truly understood you, because they only saw one chapter of your story. They saw your struggle, but they never saw your potential. They saw your waiting season, but they never saw your preparation season. They saw your wounds, but they never saw your healing. They saw your present circumstances, but they never saw your future assignment. My beloved, some people formed permanent opinions based on temporary conditions, and that was their mistake. They assumed what you were experiencing was who you were. They confused your season with your identity. They confused your process with your destiny. They confused your current chapter with your entire story. But I never made that mistake, because I have always seen the complete picture. Long before anyone noticed you, I knew you. Long before anyone believed in you, I chose you. Long before anyone understood your purpose, I designed it. And even when others underestimated you, my plans for your life never changed. Listen carefully. This next truth matters deeply. The seed never looks impressive at first. A seed appears small, ordinary, insignificant, easy to overlook. If someone judged a mighty tree based solely on its seed, they would completely misunderstand its future. Yet that is exactly what many people did to you. They judged the seed. They never imagined the tree. They looked at your current condition and assumed they knew your limits. They looked at your struggles and assumed they knew your future. They looked at your delays and assumed they knew your destiny, but they did not. Because what I place inside a person is often invisible before it becomes undeniable. Think about David. When the prophet arrived to anoint a king, nobody expected David. Not even his own family. His brothers looked stronger, older, more qualified, more impressive. David was left in the field, forgotten, overlooked, ignored. Even his father failed to mention him at first. Imagine that, the future king standing unnoticed while everyone else's name was called. How painful that must have felt. Yet while everyone focused on appearances, I was looking at the heart. While everyone saw a shepherd boy, I saw a king. While everyone saw obscurity, I saw destiny. While everyone overlooked him, I was preparing him. And my child, I have been doing the same with you. There were moments when people dismissed you because your results had not yet appeared. Moments when they overlooked your gifts because your platform was still small. Moments when they underestimated your strength because they only saw your struggle. Moments when they questioned your future because they only understood your present. But they never saw what I saw. They never saw what I was building. They never saw the roots growing beneath the surface. They never saw the character forming inside you. They never saw the wisdom being developed through hardship. They never saw the resilience being forged through disappointment. Because those things happen in hidden places, and hidden things are often misunderstood. My beloved, some of the greatest work I perform takes place where human eyes cannot see. That is why patience is so important, because people often leave too early. They abandon the process before the fruit appears. They stop believing before the breakthrough arrives. They quit before the harvest emerges. But you remained. Not perfectly, not without questions, not without tears. But you remained. And because you remained, you continued growing, even when nobody noticed, even when nobody applauded, even when nobody understood. Growth continued, quietly, steadily, faithfully. My child, I know the opinions of others have hurt you. I know there were moments when criticism cut deeply, moments when rejection felt personal, moments when being underestimated made you question yourself. But I need you to understand something. People can only evaluate from their level of vision, and many of them simply lacked the vision necessary to recognize what I placed inside you. Do not resent them. Do not become bitter. Do not waste energy trying to prove yourself, because proving yourself to the wrong people is a distraction from becoming who I created you to be. You do not need universal approval to fulfill divine purpose. You only need obedience. You only need faithfulness. You only need trust. The tree never argues with those who mocked the seed. The tree simply grows, and eventually growth becomes impossible to deny. That is what is happening in your life right now. You may not fully see it, others may not fully see it, but growth is happening. Your roots are stronger than they were before. Your faith is stronger than it was before. Your wisdom is stronger than it was before. Your character is stronger than it was before. You are not the same person who entered this season. You have changed, and the change is preparing you for something significant. Something closer than you realize. Stay with me, because there is another reason people misjudged you. Many people only understand visible success. They celebrate results. They celebrate victories. They celebrate accomplishments. But they rarely appreciate preparation. They rarely understand development. They rarely honor hidden growth. That is why they ignored your process. Not because your process lacked value, because they lacked understanding. Remember this, my child, the caterpillar is often ignored, the butterfly is admired. Yet both are the same creature at different stages. The difference is transformation, and transformation takes time. The people who judged you were evaluating a stage. I was shaping a destiny. They were watching a chapter. I was writing the entire book. They were focused on the moment. I was focused on the mission. That is why my plans never changed when people changed their opinions. Their opinions do not control destiny. Their approval does not create purpose. Their rejection does not cancel calling. Only I determine those things. And I have not changed my mind about you, not once, not ever. My beloved, hear this truth deep within your spirit. Your value was never determined by who noticed you. Your worth was never determined by who celebrated you. Your identity was never determined by who believed in you. Your value was established the moment I created you. Your purpose was established the moment I called you. Your future was established the moment I chose you. And no human opinion has the power to undo what I have spoken. This is why you must stop measuring yourself by the reactions of others. Some people are incapable of recognizing greatness while it is still developing. Some people only recognize the harvest after years of unseen growth. Some people only believe after the evidence becomes obvious, and that is all right, because I did not assign them to define you. I assigned them to witness what I am about to do. My child, if these words are speaking directly to your heart, declare, I am still growing. Because you are, even now, especially now. The process is still unfolding. The roots are still deepening. The preparation is still working. And soon, what has been hidden will begin becoming visible. But before that happens, there is something else you need to understand. There is a reason heaven kept a record of every tear, every lonely night, every silent prayer, and every moment you felt unseen. Nothing escaped my attention. Nothing was forgotten. Nothing was ignored. In the next part, I will reveal why every tear mattered and why heaven has been recording far more than you realize. because while others overlooked your pain, I was collecting every single drop. Stay close. The story behind your tears is about to be revealed. My child, there is something you have never fully understood, something that may bring peace to parts of your heart that have carried questions for years. You have often wondered if your suffering mattered. You have wondered if your tears meant anything. You have wondered if anyone truly saw what you endured. Because from your perspective, many of those painful moments happened in complete silence. No audience, no applause, no witnesses, just you, alone, carrying burdens nobody else could see, crying tears nobody else could understand, fighting battles nobody else even knew existed. And over time, a painful thought tried to settle into your spirit. The thought that perhaps none of it mattered. The thought that perhaps nobody noticed. The thought that perhaps your pain disappeared into the darkness, unnoticed and forgotten. But my beloved, listen carefully. Nothing could be further from the truth. Because while people may have overlooked your struggle, heaven never did. Not once, not for a single moment. I saw every tear, every disappointment, every lonely night, every silent prayer whispered into the darkness. Every moment you fought to keep going when giving up seemed easier. I saw it all, and not only did I see it, I remembered it. My child, there are things people forget, but I do not forget. People forget promises, people forget sacrifices, people forget loyalty, people forget kindness, people forget what you did for them, people forget how much you gave, people forget how much you cared, but I do not. Nothing escapes my attention. Nothing disappears from my sight. Nothing is wasted in my hands. This is why I need you to hear these words deeply. Your tears were never evidence of weakness. They were evidence of endurance. The fact that you cried does not mean you failed. It means you continued carrying a burden that would have crushed many others. The fact that you struggled does not mean you lacked faith. It means you kept walking while carrying weight. The fact that you questioned does not mean you abandoned trust. It means you remained on the journey even when understanding was absent. My beloved, some of your greatest acts of faith happened during moments when you thought you were failing. You believed faith looked like confidence. Sometimes faith looks like survival. You believed faith looked like certainty. Sometimes faith looks like taking one more step when you want to quit. You believed faith looked like strength. Sometimes faith looks like crying and continuing anyway. And that is exactly what you did. You continued. You kept moving. You kept believing, even when circumstances gave you every reason not to. That matters more than you know, because heaven measures differently than the world. The world celebrates visible victories. I celebrate faithful endurance. The world notices public achievements. I notice private obedience. The world applauds success. I honor perseverance. And there were many moments when your perseverance moved heaven. Moments you have completely forgotten, but I have not forgotten. I remember the prayer you whispered when nobody else knew you were hurting. I remember the night you sat alone wondering if things would ever change. I remember the morning you forced yourself to get up even though discouragement filled your heart. I remember the kindness you showed while carrying your own pain. I remember the forgiveness you offered when bitterness would have been easier. I remember the faithfulness you displayed when rewards never came. I remember all of it. My child, you often judge yourself according to outcomes, but I often judge according to faithfulness. And you have been far more faithful than you realize. Stay with me, because this next truth is important. Many people believe heaven only notices major events, the dramatic moments, the visible victories, the life-changing breakthroughs. But heaven also records the small things, the hidden things, the quiet things, the things nobody else sees, the encouraging word you spoke, the act of kindness you offered, the prayer you whispered, the sacrifice you made, the temptation you resisted, the integrity you maintained, the hope you held on to. Nothing is too small for my attention. Nothing is too insignificant for my notice. My beloved, there were moments when you thought your efforts were accomplishing nothing. Moments when you felt invisible. Moments when you wondered whether your obedience mattered. But every act of faith planted a seed. Every act of trust planted a seed. Every act of perseverance planted a seed. And seeds always produce harvests eventually. Not immediately, not always visibly, but inevitably. That is why I need you to stop believing the lie that your suffering accomplished nothing. It accomplished far more than you understand. It strengthened your spirit. It deepened your character. It refined your priorities. It purified your motives. It brought you closer to me. And perhaps most importantly, it prepared a testimony. Because one day, my child, the very story that caused your tears will become the story that encourages someone else. The very battle that nearly broke you will become evidence of my faithfulness. The very season that confused you will become proof of my guidance. The very pain that wounded you will become a source of healing for others. Nothing is wasted, nothing, not the sorrow, not the disappointment, not the waiting, not the loneliness, not the heartbreak, not the confusion. I am capable of using all of it. And I am, even now. Listen carefully. There is a reason Scripture says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle." Psalm 56 verse 8. Think about that image. Collected, not ignored, not discarded. Collected. Every tear mattered enough for heaven to notice. Every sorrow mattered enough for heaven to remember. Every struggle mattered enough for heaven to record. What a beautiful truth. The world may have overlooked your pain, but heaven documented it. The world may have forgotten your sacrifices, but heaven preserved them. The world may have missed your battles, but heaven witnessed every one. My child, there are rewards connected to faithfulness that many people never see coming, because they expect immediate results. But heaven often works differently. The seed goes underground before the harvest appears. Preparation comes before promotion, roots come before fruit, and records come before rewards. Stay with me, because this next revelation changes everything. Many of the blessings approaching your life are connected to seeds you planted long ago, prayers you prayed years ago, acts of obedience you barely remember, moments of faithfulness that seemed insignificant. You thought those moments were forgotten. They were not forgotten, they were recorded. And what has been recorded is now moving toward fulfillment. You cannot always see it, but heaven is not inactive. Heaven is not silent because heaven is absent. Heaven is silent because heaven is working. There are answers already moving, doors already shifting, opportunities already forming, people already being positioned, circumstances already changing. The story is developing behind the scenes, and very soon you will begin seeing evidence of what heaven has been preparing. My beloved, if these words are speaking directly to your spirit, pause and declare, "Heaven remembers." Because it does. Heaven remembers every prayer. Heaven remembers every sacrifice. Heaven remembers every tear. Heaven remembers every act of faith. And soon those records will begin producing visible fruit. But before that happens, there is another truth you must understand. The shift has already begun. Long before you noticed it, long before you felt it, long before you recognized it. The moment of reversal has already started. And in the next part, I will reveal the signs that your season is changing even now. Because while you were looking for dramatic evidence, God had already begun moving pieces behind the scenes. Stay close, the reversal has already started. My child, I need you to hear this with your heart, not just your ears. Because what I am about to reveal is one of the greatest misunderstandings people have about my timing. Many believe change begins when they can finally see it. They believe the breakthrough begins when the door opens. They believe the miracle begins when circumstances improve. They believe the blessing begins when evidence appears. But my beloved, that is not how I work. The visible moment is rarely the beginning. It is usually the unveiling. The real beginning often happens long before anyone notices, long before the answer arrives, long before the opportunity appears, long before the situation changes. The shift starts beneath the surface. And that is exactly what is happening in your life right now. You keep asking me for a sign. You keep looking for evidence. You keep searching for proof that things are changing. Yet you do not realize that many of the changes you are praying for have already begun. Not visibly, but strategically, quietly, carefully, deliberately, behind the scenes. My child, think about a sunrise. When people see the sun appear over the horizon, they call it dawn. But dawn actually began before they saw the first light. The process was already underway. The darkness was already losing its hold. The earth was already turning toward the light. The change had already begun. They simply could not see it yet. And the same is true for your season. The darkness is not as strong as it appears. The waiting is not as permanent as it feels. The silence is not as empty as it seems. Because while you have been looking at what remains unchanged, I have been changing things you cannot yet see. Stay with me, because this next truth matters deeply. One of the reasons people lose hope is because they expect transformation to happen instantly. They want immediate results, immediate answers, immediate breakthroughs, immediate evidence. But many of my greatest works begin invisibly, just as roots develop underground before fruit appears above ground. Just as a child develops in secret before birth. Just as a seed transforms beneath the soil before emerging into the light. I often begin my greatest works where human eyes cannot see. Why? Because hidden growth creates lasting growth. Visible growth attracts attention. Hidden growth builds strength. And strength is what your future requires. My beloved, there are things moving right now that you know nothing about. Conversations happening, doors preparing to open, people being positioned, opportunities approaching, circumstances aligning, answers forming. You cannot see them, but I can. You cannot track them, but I am directing them. You cannot measure them, but I am orchestrating them. And while you have been worrying about timing, heaven has been arranging details. Details you could never arrange on your own. Details beyond your control. Details beyond your imagination. Because my plans are always larger than your perspective. My child, I know you have asked questions like, when will things finally change? When will my season shift? When will I see evidence? When will my prayers be answered? Listen carefully. Some evidence is already appearing. You simply have not recognized it. The fact that you are not the same person you used to be is evidence. The fact that your faith survived the storm is evidence. The fact that you still possess hope after everything you endured is evidence. The fact that your spirit continues reaching for me is evidence. The fact that you are still standing is evidence. Do not underestimate internal victories, because internal victories often precede external breakthroughs. The person must change before the season changes. The character must grow before the opportunity arrives. The roots must deepen before the fruit appears. That is why I spent so much time developing you, because what is coming requires a stronger version of you. And that stronger version is emerging, even now. Stay with me. Because there is another sign the reversal has started. You have begun seeing things differently. Situations that once controlled you no longer hold the same power. People whose opinions once devastated you no longer determine your peace. Fears that once dominated your thinking have started losing influence. The old version of you would have collapsed under certain pressures. But you did not collapse, you endured. You grew, you matured. That is evidence of transformation. And transformation is evidence that a new season is approaching. My beloved, many people focus so intensely on what they have not received that they fail to notice what they have become. Yet who you become is often the greatest miracle. Because blessings can be lost, opportunities can disappear, possessions can come and go, but character remains. wisdom remains, strength remains, and those qualities are exactly what I have been building inside you. Now, hear me carefully. The enemy wants you to believe nothing is happening, because discouragement thrives in perceived inactivity. But heaven is not inactive, not for a moment. When Joseph sat in prison, heaven was working. When David hid in caves, heaven was working. When Ruth gathered leftovers in fields, heaven was working. When Esther lived in obscurity, heaven was working. The visible circumstances told one story, heaven was writing another, and the same is true for you. The visible story says, nothing has changed. The heavenly story says, everything is being prepared. The visible story says, you are still waiting. The heavenly story says, you are getting closer. The visible story says, you are alone. The heavenly story says, you are being positioned. Do not confuse delay with absence. Do not confuse silence with inactivity. Do not confuse hiddenness with failure, because what appears quiet on earth may be very active in heaven. My child, there are moments when my work is most powerful precisely because it is invisible. A farmer does not dig up seeds every day to check their progress. He trusts the process. A gardener does not panic because growth cannot yet be seen. He trusts the process. And I am asking you to trust the process as well. Trust what I am doing. Trust what I am building. Trust what I am arranging. Trust what I am preparing, even when evidence feels limited, even when answers seem delayed, even when understanding remains incomplete. Trust me, because the reversal has already begun. The momentum has already shifted. The season is already changing. You simply have not seen the full manifestation yet, but you will. And when you do, you will realize something remarkable. You will realize that while you were asking me to start moving, I had already been moving all along. My beloved, remember these words. When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. Isaiah 60:22. Notice what I did not say. I did not say you must force it. I did not say you must manipulate circumstances. I did not say you must convince everyone around you. I said, I will make it happen. My timing, my way, my power, my purpose. And when that moment arrives, what seemed impossible will suddenly become obvious. The door will open, the answer will arrive, the opportunity will appear, the shift will become visible, and everyone will think it happened suddenly. But you will know the truth. You will know the reversal began long before anyone noticed. You will know heaven was working during the silence. You will know the hidden season was never empty. You will know the waiting season was never wasted. And if these words are speaking directly to your spirit, declare, my reversal has already started. Because it has. Even if you cannot see every detail, even if you do not yet understand every step, the movement has begun. The season is shifting. The story is changing. But my child, there is something even more surprising ahead. Soon, the same people who overlooked you will begin noticing something different. Not because you demanded their attention, not because you chased their approval, but because what I have been building inside you is becoming impossible to hide. In the next part, I will reveal why the people who ignored you will soon recognize the difference, because transformation eventually becomes visible. And your hidden season is approaching that moment. Stay close. The world is about to notice what heaven has been building. My child, for so long you have felt invisible. For so long it seemed as though nobody noticed your efforts. Nobody noticed your growth. Nobody noticed your sacrifices. Nobody noticed the battles you fought in secret. You watched people overlook you. You watched them underestimate you. You watched them dismiss what I was doing in your life. And if you are honest, there were moments when you wished they could see what you were carrying. Moments when you wished someone would finally recognize your worth. Moments when you wished someone would acknowledge how hard you had fought just to keep moving forward. But my beloved, hear me carefully. The season of needing validation from others is coming to an end. because what I am doing inside you is becoming too significant to remain hidden forever. Stay with me. This next truth matters deeply. A tree never announces its growth, it simply grows. It does not argue with those who doubted the seed. It does not chase those who ignored it. It does not demand recognition. It simply continues becoming what it was created to be. And eventually, everyone can see the difference. That is what is happening in your life. The change inside you has been gradual. So gradual that you may not even notice it yourself. Day by day, lesson by lesson, battle by battle, prayer by prayer, you have been changing, growing, maturing, strengthening. And because growth happens slowly, it often goes unnoticed by the person experiencing it. But others will notice. They will notice the peace you carry. They will notice the confidence developing within you. They will notice the wisdom in your words. They will notice the strength in your spirit. They will notice that something about you is different. Not because you told them, because transformation speaks louder than explanation. My child, many people spend their lives trying to convince others of their value, trying to prove themselves, trying to gain approval, trying to earn recognition. But true transformation does not require advertising. Light does not announce itself, it simply shines, and darkness notices. You are entering a season where people will begin seeing evidence of what heaven has been building. Not because you suddenly became valuable, you were always valuable. Not because you suddenly became chosen, you were always chosen. Not because you suddenly became capable, you were always capable. The difference is that what was hidden is beginning to emerge. And when that happens, people often react in surprising ways. Stay close, because I need you to understand something before that moment arrives. Not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some will. Some will genuinely rejoice with you. Some will be inspired by your journey. Some will thank me for what I have done in your life. But others will struggle, not because you did anything wrong, because your transformation reminds them of what they ignored. Your growth reminds them of what they underestimated. Your elevation reminds them of the conclusions they made too early. And people rarely enjoy being reminded that they misjudged someone. That is why some who ignored Joseph suddenly paid attention when he stood in authority. That is why those who overlooked David eventually recognized his leadership. That is why people who dismissed greatness in its early stages often become surprised by its maturity. My child, do not become bitter when that happens. Do not seek revenge. Do not seek validation. Do not seek opportunities to prove people wrong. Because your elevation is not about winning arguments. Your elevation is about fulfilling purpose. There is a tremendous difference. People who seek revenge remain connected to the past. People who embrace purpose move toward the future. And I am calling you toward the future, not backward, forward, always forward. My beloved, one of the signs that your season is changing is that you no longer need everyone to understand you. You no longer need universal approval. You no longer need every critic to become a supporter. You no longer need every doubter to become a believer. Because your identity is becoming rooted in me rather than in human opinion. That is maturity. That is freedom. That is strength. And that strength is becoming visible. The peace you carry is becoming visible. The wisdom you carry is becoming visible. The resilience you carry is becoming visible. People are beginning to notice, even if they cannot explain what they see. Because there is something unique about a person who has survived hidden seasons. They carry a depth that cannot be manufactured. They carry a calmness that cannot be purchased. They carry a perspective that cannot be taught quickly. And that depth comes from walking through valleys with me. You have walked through valleys. You have endured difficult seasons. You have survived disappointments. You have faced loneliness. You have battled uncertainty. And every one of those experiences added depth to your spirit. Now that depth is beginning to show. Not in arrogance, not in pride, but in quiet strength. The kind of strength that does not need to be announced. The kind of strength that does not need attention, the kind of strength that simply exists. My child, there are people who once overlooked you who will eventually recognize something they cannot ignore. Not merely external success, not merely achievements, not merely opportunities. They will recognize the person you have become, because who you become is always more important than what you receive. A blessing can change circumstances, character changes lives, and opportunity can open a door. Wisdom determines what happens after the door opens. A promotion can elevate your position. Maturity determines whether you can remain there. That is why I focused so much attention on developing you, because your future requires more than blessings. It requires strength, and strength is exactly what I have been building. Stay with me, because this next truth changes everything. Many people assume your story is about proving others wrong. It is not. Your story is about revealing my faithfulness. The goal was never revenge. The goal was never recognition. The goal was never applause. The goal was always purpose, always. That is why I do not want you to become distracted when people begin noticing the difference. Do not chase their attention. Do not seek their approval. Do not build your identity around their reactions. Keep your eyes on me, because what is coming is bigger than human recognition. Far bigger. What is coming concerns your assignment, your calling, your purpose, your impact. The transformation was never only for you. It was preparing you to help others, encourage others, lead others, inspire others, show others what my faithfulness can accomplish. My beloved, the same light that guides you will eventually guide someone else. The same comfort you received will eventually comfort someone else. The same testimony you are living will eventually strengthen someone else. That is why your story matters. That is why your growth matters. That is why your hidden season mattered. Nothing was wasted, nothing. And now the evidence is beginning to appear. The world may not understand everything, but they will notice the difference, because transformation eventually becomes visible. Light eventually shines. Fruit eventually appears. And what I planted inside you is beginning to emerge. Remember these words. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Matthew 5:16. Notice the focus, not glorify you, glorify the Father. Because when people witness genuine transformation, they are really witnessing my work. Your life becomes evidence of my faithfulness. Your growth becomes evidence of my guidance. Your strength becomes evidence of my presence. And that evidence is becoming harder to hide with each passing day. If these words are speaking directly to your spirit, declare, my light will shine, because it will. Not through force, not through striving, not through self-promotion, but through the quiet, undeniable evidence of a life transformed by my hand. And stay close, my child, because there is still one misunderstanding you must overcome. Many people believe their rise is about proving doubters wrong, but that mindset can trap them in bitterness. In the next part, I will reveal why your elevation is bigger than revenge, because what I am preparing for you has nothing to do with settling scores. It has everything to do with fulfilling destiny. Stay with me. The real purpose behind your rise is about to be revealed. My child, before I take you any further, there is something hidden inside your heart that we must address, because if it remains there, it can slow down what I am trying to do in your life. It is not fear, it is not weakness, it is not lack of faith, it is something far more subtle, something many people carry without realizing it. Bitterness, the quiet desire to prove people wrong, the hidden longing to finally show those who doubted you what they missed. The secret hope that one day the people who ignored you will regret it. My beloved, I understand why you feel this way. I understand the wounds. I understand the memories. I understand the rejection. I understand how deeply it hurt to be overlooked, to be underestimated, to be dismissed, to have people walk away before they understood who you were becoming. I saw every moment. I saw every tear. I saw every betrayal. I saw every unfair judgment. And because I saw it all, I understand why part of your heart wants vindication. But stay with me, because what I am about to tell you may completely transform your future. Your elevation is too important to be powered by revenge. Your calling is too significant to be fueled by bitterness. Your destiny is too valuable to be tied to the opinions of people who misunderstood you. My child, if your rise becomes about proving people wrong, then those people still control part of your life. Think about that. If your happiness depends on their regret, they still have power. If your peace depends on their apology, they still have power. If your confidence depends on their recognition, they still have power. And I did not bring you this far to leave you chained to people from your past. I am calling you into freedom, real freedom, the kind of freedom that no longer requires validation, the kind of freedom that no longer needs revenge, the kind of freedom that no longer waits for someone else to understand. Because when you truly understand who you are in me, you stop needing everyone else to agree. Stay close. This next truth is important. Joseph could have spent his entire life seeking revenge against his brothers. After all, they betrayed him, sold him, abandoned him, humiliated him. They were responsible for years of suffering. And yet, when Joseph finally stood in authority, something remarkable happened. He did not use his power for revenge. He used it for purpose. He did not ask, "How can I make them suffer?" He asked, "How can I fulfill what God brought me here to do?" That is maturity, that is healing, that is freedom, and that is where I am leading you. My beloved, there is a difference between being remembered and being respected. There is a difference between winning an argument and fulfilling an assignment. There is a difference between proving yourself and becoming yourself. Many people spend their entire lives trying to prove something, trying to prove they are worthy, trying to prove they are capable, trying to prove others were wrong. And because of that, they never fully step into purpose. They remain focused on the audience instead of the assignment, focused on critics instead of calling, focused on wounds instead of destiny. Do not make that mistake. You were not created to spend your life proving people wrong. You were created to live out what I placed inside you. That is far greater, far more powerful, far more fulfilling. My child, some of the people who hurt you may never apologize. Some may never understand. Some may never admit they misjudged you. Some may never recognize what they lost, and that must be all right, because your healing cannot depend on their awareness. Your future cannot depend on their understanding. Your peace cannot depend on their apology. Your joy cannot depend on their regret. It must depend on me, only me. Because I am constant when people change. I am faithful when people disappoint. I am present when people leave. I am enough. And when you fully embrace that truth, something beautiful begins to happen. The burden starts lifting, the anger starts fading, the need to prove yourself starts disappearing, the chains begin breaking, and suddenly you find yourself moving forward without carrying the weight of yesterday. My beloved, there is another reason I need you to release bitterness. Bitterness consumes energy that purpose requires. Every moment spent replaying old wounds is energy unavailable for your future. Every moment spent seeking revenge is attention diverted from your calling. Every moment spent dwelling on what happened is focus removed from where you are going. And where you are going matters far more than where you have been. Listen carefully. The enemy would love for you to arrive at your blessing carrying resentment. Because resentment clouds vision. Resentment weakens peace. Resentment distracts focus. Resentment keeps people emotionally tied to seasons that should have ended long ago. But I want more for you than that. I want freedom. I want healing. I want wholeness. I want peace. I want you to stand in your future without carrying unnecessary weight from your past. Because what I am preparing requires clarity. It requires peace. It requires a heart that is free. Stay with me, because this next truth changes everything. The greatest victory is not becoming successful. The greatest victory is becoming free. Free from bitterness, free from regret, free from the need for approval, free from the opinions of others, free from the chains of past disappointments. And that freedom is exactly what I have been cultivating inside you. Think about how much you have already changed. Situations that once devastated you no longer control you. People whose opinions once crushed you no longer define you. Fears that once dominated your thinking have begun losing influence. You are changing, healing, growing, and every step of that healing is preparing you for the next season. My child, one day people will notice what I have done in your life. One day they will see the growth. One day they will see the transformation. One day they will see the strength. But when that day arrives, I do not want your first thought to be, now they will regret ignoring me. I want your first thought to be, look what God has done, because that is the real story, not their mistake. My faithfulness, not their rejection, my restoration, not their absence, my presence, not their judgment, my purpose. That is the story heaven is writing, and it is far more beautiful than revenge could ever be. Remember these words. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as in Christ God forgave you. Ephesians 4:31-32. My child, forgiveness does not mean pretending the hurt never happened. Forgiveness means refusing to let the hurt control your future. Forgiveness means trusting me with justice. Forgiveness means choosing freedom over bondage. And freedom is what I want for you. If these words are speaking directly to your spirit, pause and declare, I release the bitterness. Not because what happened was acceptable, but because your future is too valuable to be held hostage by your past. Release it. Give it to me. Trust me with it, and keep moving forward. Because what is coming next is greater than anything you leave behind. Stay close, because there is another truth I must reveal. You have spent so much time asking why I hid you, but the answer is more profound than you realize. I did not hide you because you were weak. I hid you because your assignment was valuable. And in the next part, I will reveal why precious things are concealed before they are revealed. Because the hidden season was never punishment, it was protection. Stay with me. The deeper purpose behind your hidden season is about to be uncovered. My child, for a long time you have been asking the wrong question. You kept asking, why was I overlooked? Why was I ignored? Why was I hidden? Why did everyone else seem to move ahead while I remained unseen? But today, I want to replace those questions with a new one. A better one, a question that reveals the truth. What if you were hidden because your assignment was too important to expose too early? Stay with me, because this may be the revelation that changes how you view your entire life. You see, the world often assumes visibility equals value. The more visible something is, the more important it must be. The more attention something receives, the more significant it must be. But heaven does not operate that way. In my kingdom, the most valuable things are often hidden first. A treasure is hidden, a seed is hidden, a child develops hidden within the womb. Gold remains buried beneath the earth. Roots grow hidden beneath the surface. And many of my greatest servants experienced hidden seasons before public assignments. Not because they lacked purpose, because their purpose mattered too much to expose prematurely. My beloved, immature exposure can destroy a mature destiny. That is why preparation often happens in secret. Because visibility attracts pressure. Visibility attracts criticism. Visibility attracts opposition. And if a person is revealed before they are ready, what should have elevated them can crush them instead. I was protecting you from that. There were seasons when you wanted immediate recognition, immediate opportunity, immediate visibility. But if I had given you everything you requested at that moment, it would have overwhelmed you. Not because you were incapable, because you were still becoming. And becoming takes time. Stay close. This next truth matters deeply. Think about an arrow. Before an arrow flies, it is pulled backward. The backward movement looks like delay. It looks like loss. It looks like retreat. But it is actually preparation for acceleration. The farther the assignment, the deeper the preparation. The greater the purpose, the stronger the pull. And my child, some of the backward seasons in your life were actually preparing you for forward momentum. You interpreted them as setbacks. I designed them as setups. You saw retreat. I saw positioning. You saw delay. I saw alignment. You saw hiddenness. I saw preparation. Because I knew where I was taking you, long before you understood it yourself. Remember what was written. For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. Colossians 3:3. Notice that word. Hidden. Not abandoned, not forgotten. Hidden. There is a difference. Forgotten things are neglected. Hidden things are protected. Forgotten things lose value. Hidden things preserve value. Forgotten things are discarded. Hidden things are guarded. And my child, you were never forgotten. You were guarded. You were protected. You were preserved. You were being kept safe while I completed a work inside you. A work that could not be rushed. A work that could not be forced. A work that required time. Many people only see the public season. They never see the preparation season. They celebrate David standing before Goliath, but they ignore the years spent alone in the fields. They celebrate Joseph governing Egypt, but they ignore the prison. They celebrate Esther becoming queen, but they ignore the hidden years beforehand. Yet those hidden years were not interruptions. They were necessities. Without the hidden season, the visible season could not have existed. And the same is true for you. The hidden season was not separate from your purpose. The hidden season was part of your purpose. The waiting season was part of your preparation. The lonely season was part of your development. The overlooked season was part of your training. Everything had meaning. Everything had purpose. Everything was working together. My child, there is something else you must understand. Some people wanted access to you before they deserved access to you. Some people wanted influence over your future before they understood your value. Some people wanted a voice in your destiny before they were qualified to speak into it. That is another reason I kept you hidden. Not everyone was meant to accompany you into the next season. Not everyone was meant to shape your future. Not everyone was meant to influence your calling. Some people only had access to an earlier chapter, and when that chapter ended, so did their assignment. You grieved their departure, but often I was protecting your future because what I placed inside you was too precious to entrust to the wrong hands. Stay with me, because this next revelation is important. Many people think hidden seasons are empty seasons. They think nothing is happening. They think heaven has become silent. They think progress has stopped. But hidden seasons are often the busiest seasons in heaven. The roots are growing. The foundation is strengthening. The character is forming. The wisdom is developing. The perspective is changing. The healing is happening. The preparation is unfolding. The person is becoming. And becoming always precedes revealing. You wanted the revealing. I focused on the becoming. Because once you become who you were created to be, the revealing takes care of itself. Light does not struggle to shine. Fruit does not struggle to be noticed. A tree does not struggle to demonstrate growth. Transformation eventually becomes visible, naturally. And that is exactly where your story is heading. My beloved, there were moments when you felt forgotten because nobody called. Nobody noticed. Nobody invited. Nobody recognized. Nobody understood. Yet while people were overlooking you, heaven was investing in you. While people were moving on, heaven was preparing. While people were making assumptions, heaven was building. And what heaven builds lasts longer than human approval. Human approval changes. My purpose remains. Human opinions shift. My calling remains. Human attention fades. My plans remain. That is why you must never measure your worth by how visible you are. Visibility is not value. Popularity is not purpose. Attention is not destiny. Many visible people lack purpose. Many hidden people carry extraordinary assignments. And for a season, you were one of them. Hidden, protected, prepared, positioned. Not because you lacked value, because you carried value. The hidden season was evidence of importance, not insignificance, evidence of purpose, not failure, evidence of preparation, not punishment. My child, one day you will look back and thank me for what I did not allow. You will thank me for the doors I closed, the opportunities I delayed, the relationships I removed, the visibility I postponed, because you will finally understand how much protection was hidden inside those decisions. You will see how carefully I guided you, how intentionally I preserved you, how faithfully I prepared you, and you will realize something extraordinary. The hidden season was never working against you. It was working for you, even when it hurt, even when it confused you, even when it felt unfair. I was protecting something too valuable to expose too early. You, your purpose, your assignment, your future. If these words are speaking directly to your spirit, declare, I was hidden for a reason. Because you were, not by accident, not by neglect, not by abandonment, by design, a divine design, a loving design, a purposeful design. And now, my child, there is one final layer of truth that must be revealed. You thought your hidden season was loneliness, but it was something far deeper than that, far more beautiful than that. In the next part, I will show you why what felt like isolation was actually divine covering. Why what felt like separation was actually protection. Why what felt like being alone was proof that I was closer than you realized. Stay close. The true meaning of your loneliness is about to be revealed. My child, there is one wound that has followed you through almost every season of your life. A wound deeper than disappointment, deeper than rejection, deeper than delay. It is the wound of loneliness. Not simply being alone, but feeling alone, feeling unseen, feeling disconnected, feeling as though everyone else had someone to lean on while you carried your burdens in silence. You know exactly what I am talking about. Those moments when the room was full, yet you still felt isolated. Those moments when you smiled outwardly, but felt empty inwardly. Those moments when you wished someone truly understood what you were carrying. Those moments when you wondered if anyone even noticed your struggle. My beloved, I know those moments. I was there every single time. And that is the truth I need you to hear today. You were never as alone as you thought, not even close. Because while you were measuring my presence by human companionship, I was standing beside you all along. Stay with me, because this revelation changes everything. Many people assume my presence feels dramatic, powerful, obvious. They expect thunder, miracles, instant answers, overwhelming emotions. Yet some of my greatest acts of presence happen quietly, gently, faithfully, without announcement. Think about Elijah. He expected me in the wind. I was not there. He expected me in the earthquake. I was not there. He expected me in the fire. I was not there. Then came a still, small voice, and there I was. My child, sometimes I am closest when I seem silent. Sometimes I am nearest when I appear hidden. Sometimes I am carrying you when you think you are walking alone. Because my presence is not determined by your ability to feel it. My presence is determined by my promise. And I promised never to leave you. Never. Not during your victories, not during your failures. Not during your confusion, not during your waiting, not during your hidden season, never. Stay close. This next truth is important. The loneliness you experienced was not always separation. Often it was covering. There is a difference. Separation isolates for harm. Covering separates for protection. A shepherd separates certain sheep to protect them. A gardener separates certain plants so they can grow. A trainer separates an athlete for preparation. And often I separate my children for development, not because I wish to wound them, because I wish to strengthen them. My beloved, there were seasons when I intentionally reduced distractions around you. Seasons when certain relationships faded. Seasons when certain invitations disappeared. Seasons when certain connections weakened. You interpreted those seasons as abandonment, but often they were invitations. Invitations into deeper intimacy with me. Because there are things I can teach you in hidden places that crowded places cannot teach. There are truths you discover in solitude that noise prevents you from hearing. There is strength developed in private that public environments rarely create. And that is why hidden seasons are often sacred seasons. Even when they feel painful, stay with me, because this next revelation may heal years of misunderstanding. You thought loneliness meant nobody wanted you, but often loneliness meant I was repositioning you. You thought isolation meant something was wrong, but often isolation meant something was being prepared. You thought fewer people around you meant less favor, but often fewer distractions meant greater focus. My child, some of the greatest breakthroughs in Scripture began during isolated seasons. Moses encountered me in the wilderness. David grew close to me in the fields. Joseph developed character in prison. John received revelation while exiled. The hidden place became the holy place. The lonely place became the training place. The isolated place became the preparation place. And perhaps that has been true for you as well. Because if you are honest, some of your deepest growth happened when nobody was around. Some of your greatest prayers were prayed in lonely rooms. Some of your strongest faith was built during silent nights. Some of your greatest lessons emerged from seasons you never would have chosen. And through it all, I was there, listening, guiding, protecting, strengthening, walking beside you, even when you could not see me. My beloved, there were moments when you thought, if God is with me, why does this feel so difficult? And that question is understandable. But remember something. My presence does not eliminate every challenge. My presence transforms the meaning of the challenge. David still faced Goliath, but he did not face him alone. Daniel still entered the lion's den, but he did not enter alone. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego still entered the fire, but they were not alone. The fire remained. The lions remained. The giant remained. But my presence changed everything. And the same is true for your life. The challenge may have remained. The waiting may have remained. The uncertainty may have remained, but you were never carrying those things alone. I was carrying them with you, and often I was carrying you. Stay close, because there is another truth you need to hear. Many people believe loneliness means they are unwanted. That is not always true. Sometimes loneliness is the consequence of growth. As you change, certain environments no longer fit. As you mature, certain conversations lose their appeal. As you move closer to purpose, certain relationships naturally fall away. And that transition can feel lonely. Not because you are losing your value, because you are growing. Growth often creates temporary distance between where you were and where you are going. But temporary loneliness is not permanent abandonment. It is often evidence of transition. Evidence that one season is ending while another is beginning. Evidence that heaven is creating room for what comes next. My child, if I had allowed every old relationship to remain, there would be no room for the new ones. If I had allowed every old season to continue, there would be no room for growth. If I had allowed every old chapter to remain open, the next chapter could never begin. That is why endings are sometimes necessary, painful, but necessary. And every ending I allowed carried purpose, even when you did not understand it, especially when you did not understand it. My beloved, there is something else I want you to know. The enemy often uses loneliness to tell lies. Lies like, you are forgotten, you are unloved, you are abandoned, you do not matter. But those lies collapse when exposed to truth. And the truth is this: you matter deeply. You are loved completely. You are known fully. You are remembered constantly. You are carried faithfully. You are protected intentionally. And you are never alone. Never. Remember my promise. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Deuteronomy 31:8. Notice the certainty. Not maybe, not sometimes, not occasionally, will, always, faithfully, forever. My child, one day you will look back on this hidden season and realize something remarkable. You will realize that what felt like loneliness was often divine covering. What felt like silence was often divine guidance. What felt like separation was often divine protection. And what felt like abandonment was actually proof that I was leading you somewhere new. If these words are speaking directly to your spirit, declare, I was never alone. Because you were not. Not for a single moment. Not during the tears, not during the waiting, not during the heartbreak, not during the uncertainty. I was there, and I am still here, but stay with me, because the hidden season is approaching its conclusion. The preparation is nearing completion. The roots are deep. The character is strong. The foundation is ready. And in the next part, I will reveal why things can change far more quickly than you imagine once my timing arrives. Because years of preparation often produce sudden results, and what heaven has been building is closer to manifestation than you realize. Stay close. The season of visible change is nearer than you think. My child, if you have stayed with me this far, then there is something you must understand before this message ends. You have spent so much time focusing on how long the preparation lasted that you have forgotten something important. Preparation and manifestation do not move at the same speed. The preparation may take years. The revelation may take moments. The roots may take years to grow. The fruit may appear in a season. The training may feel endless. The promotion may arrive suddenly. And that is why so many people misunderstand my timing. They assume that because progress has felt slow, change must also be slow. But my beloved, I am not limited by human expectations. I am not limited by human timelines. I am not limited by human calculations. When my appointed time arrives, years of preparation can become visible almost overnight. Stay with me, because this truth explains some of the most remarkable moments in Scripture. Joseph spent years in slavery, years in prison, years forgotten, years waiting. Yet when the appointed moment arrived, everything changed in a single day. One conversation, one opportunity, one interpretation, one moment. And suddenly the prisoner stood beside the king. The preparation took years. The promotion happened quickly. David spent years in obscurity, years tending sheep, years hiding from enemies, years waiting for promises to unfold. Yet when the appointed season arrived, the shepherd became king. The preparation took years. The elevation seemed sudden. Esther lived through hidden seasons, quiet seasons, unknown seasons. Yet when her moment arrived, her influence changed the destiny of a nation. The preparation took years. The impact appeared suddenly. My child, the same principle is operating in your life. What heaven has been building inside you did not happen quickly. The lessons took time. The healing took time. The growth took time. The waiting took time. The preparation took time. But manifestation often moves differently. And that is why you must not judge your future by your current pace. Stay close, because this next truth matters deeply. Many people quit right before the breakthrough because they mistake slow preparation for permanent delay. They assume that because nothing appears to be changing, nothing is changing. They assume that because they cannot see movement, movement does not exist. But remember what we discussed earlier. The reversal began before you noticed it. The roots grew before the fruit appeared. The shift started before the evidence emerged. And right now, my child, there are things approaching your life that you cannot yet see, doors you cannot yet identify, connections you have not yet made, opportunities you have not yet imagined, blessings you have not yet received, answers you have not yet recognized. They are closer than they appear, because while you have been counting delays, heaven has been completing preparation. And preparation creates readiness. Readiness creates opportunity. Opportunity creates manifestation. The process is unfolding exactly as it should. My beloved, there is a reason farmers do not panic during seasons when fruit is invisible. They understand something important. Growth is not measured by visibility alone. Growth is measured by development, and development has been occurring inside you for a very long time. You are stronger than you used to be, wiser than you used to be, more discerning than you used to be, more resilient than you used to be, more faithful than you used to be. You may not always recognize it, but heaven does. And because heaven recognizes it, heaven also knows when you are ready. Ready for greater responsibility. Ready for greater influence. Ready for greater opportunities. Ready for greater assignments. Ready for the next chapter. Stay with me, because there is another truth many people overlook. When people finally witness the harvest, they often assume it happened overnight. They never saw the planting. They never saw the watering. They never saw the waiting. They never saw the hidden growth. They only saw the result. That is why some people will look at your future and call it sudden. They will call it lucky, unexpected, surprising, rapid, but you will know the truth. You will know the tears behind the testimony. You will know the prayers behind the breakthrough. You will know the waiting behind the blessing. You will know the preparation behind the promotion. Because you lived it, you walked through it, you endured it, and every hidden season contributed to what is coming. My child, there are moments when my timing compresses years into days. Moments when opportunities align unexpectedly. Moments when doors open rapidly. Moments when answers arrive one after another. Moments when everything begins moving faster than before. Not because I suddenly started working, because the preparation reached completion. Imagine an arrow held tightly in a bow. For a long time it appears motionless. Nothing seems to happen. No movement, no progress, no change. Then suddenly, release occurs, and the arrow moves with tremendous speed. The motion appears sudden, but the force was building long before the release. My child, some of the force behind your future has been building throughout this entire hidden season. Every lesson, every prayer, every sacrifice, every act of obedience, every difficult season, everything has been contributing. Nothing has been wasted, nothing. Stay close, because this next revelation is important. You must resist the temptation to grow discouraged in the final stages of preparation. The enemy often attacks hardest near breakthrough. Not because he is strong, because he is afraid. Afraid of what happens when you finally see what God has been doing. Afraid of what happens when your confidence returns. Afraid of what happens when your testimony becomes visible. Afraid of what happens when your hidden season becomes a public witness to my faithfulness. Do not allow discouragement to convince you that nothing is happening. Do not allow frustration to convince you that waiting means failure. Do not allow temporary delays to make permanent conclusions. The story is still unfolding, and my timing is still perfect. My beloved, I know there were moments when you wondered whether the promise would ever arrive. Moments when hope felt fragile. Moments when faith felt difficult. Moments when you questioned whether your season would ever change. But hear me clearly, your waiting has not been in vain. Your faithfulness has not been ignored. Your prayers have not been forgotten. Your tears have not been wasted. Everything is moving toward fulfillment. Everything. Remember these words. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. Habakkuk 2:3. Notice the promise, not maybe, not possibly, certainly. It will come at the appointed time, at the right moment, according to my wisdom, according to my purpose, according to my plan. And when that moment arrives, many things that seemed impossible will suddenly become possible. Things that looked delayed will suddenly move. Things that looked closed will suddenly open. Things that looked forgotten will suddenly be remembered. Things that looked finished will suddenly begin again, because my timing changes everything. My child, if these words are speaking directly to your spirit, declare, I trust God's timing. Not because you understand every detail, but because you trust the one who does. Trust my timing, trust my process, trust my preparation, trust my purpose. Because what I have been building is closer to manifestation than you realize. And now there is one final truth you must hear. One final revelation that explains why this entire journey happened the way it did. The greatest miracle was never the promotion, never the recognition, never the blessing. The greatest miracle was who you became while nobody was watching. And in the final part, I will reveal why your rise is really a testimony of transformation. Because the hidden season did far more than prepare your future. It transformed your heart. Stay close. The final truth is about to be revealed. My child, we have come to the final truth. The truth hidden beneath every delay, every closed door, every lonely season, every unanswered question, every tear, every moment when you felt invisible. There is something I need you to understand before this message ends. Because if you truly understand it, you will never see your hidden season the same way again. For so long, you believed the miracle was waiting ahead of you. The promotion, the breakthrough, the opportunity, the recognition, the blessing, the open door, the answered prayer. You thought those things would be the evidence that I was working. You thought those things would prove that your waiting had meaning. You thought those things would finally justify everything you endured. But my beloved, there is something even more important, something even more beautiful, something many people never fully understand. The greatest miracle was already happening while you were waiting. The greatest miracle was happening inside you. Stay with me, because this changes everything. Think about the person you were before this hidden season began. Think about your fears, your insecurities, your dependence on the opinions of others, your need for approval, your tendency to panic when circumstances changed, your struggle to trust when answers were delayed. You were not weak, you were simply unfinished, and there is no shame in that, because everyone begins unfinished. That is why I take my children through processes. That is why I allow preparation. That is why I allow growth. Not because I wish to hurt them, because I wish to transform them. And transformation is exactly what happened to you. My child, you entered this season wanting a blessing. You are leaving it as a different person. That is the miracle. You entered this season seeking answers. You are leaving it with wisdom. You entered this season needing validation. You are leaving it with identity. You entered this season afraid of being overlooked. You are leaving it secure in who you are. You entered this season feeling abandoned. You are leaving it knowing I was always there. That is transformation. That is growth. That is the true miracle. Stay close, because there is something remarkable about the way I work. People often focus on what I give. I focus on who they become. People focus on outcomes. I focus on character. People focus on blessings. I focus on preparation. People focus on visibility. I focus on maturity. Because blessings without maturity can be dangerous. Opportunities without wisdom can become burdens. Influence without character can become destructive. That is why I spent so much time working beneath the surface. I was building someone capable of carrying what is coming. And my beloved, that person now exists. You may not fully see it yet, but I do. I see the strength that suffering created. I see the wisdom that waiting produced. I see the compassion that pain developed. I see the resilience that hardship forged. I see the faith that silence strengthened. I see the courage that uncertainty revealed. You are not who you used to be, not even close. The hidden season changed you. The waiting season changed you. The lonely season changed you. The preparation season changed you. And one day you will thank me for that change. Because there are blessings coming that the old version of you could not have carried. There are opportunities coming that the old version of you would have mishandled. There are assignments coming that the old version of you would have feared. But now you are ready. not perfect. Ready. There is a difference. My child, remember Joseph. People often talk about the palace, but the palace was not the miracle. The miracle was the man who emerged from the prison. The miracle was the wisdom, the humility, the maturity, the forgiveness, the character. The palace simply revealed what the prison had produced. And the same is true for you. Your future elevation will not create your strength, it will reveal it. Your future opportunity will not create your character, it will reveal it. Your future blessing will not create your faith, it will reveal it. Because the real work has already been happening. Quietly, faithfully, patiently inside you, stay with me. Because there is one final misunderstanding I want to remove. You have spent years wondering why people ignored you, why they overlooked you, why they underestimated you, why they failed to recognize what was inside you. But one day, you will stop asking those questions, not because you finally receive answers, because they will no longer matter. When you understand who you are, you stop needing everyone else to understand. When you understand your purpose, you stop needing universal approval. When you understand my calling, you stop being controlled by human opinions. And that freedom is one of the greatest gifts I have given you. You no longer need every critic to become a supporter. You no longer need every doubter to become a believer. You no longer need every person who left to come back, because your confidence is no longer rooted in them. It is rooted in me. And what is rooted in me cannot be shaken by human opinion. My beloved, soon the people who ignored you will see the difference. They will notice the growth. They will notice the peace. They will notice the wisdom. They will notice the strength. They will notice the favor. But do not let that become your focus, because your story is bigger than their reaction. Much bigger. Your story is not about proving them wrong. Your story is about revealing my faithfulness. That is the real message, not what people did. What God did, not who rejected you, who sustained you, not who ignored you, who prepared you, not who walked away, who stayed, and I stayed through every chapter, through every battle, through every disappointment, through every lonely night, through every unanswered prayer. Through every hidden season, I stayed. I never left, not once. My child, this is why the scripture says, humble yourselves under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. 1 Peter 5:6, notice those final words. In due time, not your time, not the world's time. The right time, the appointed time, the prepared time. The time when your character matches your calling. The time when your heart is ready. The time when your foundation is strong. The time when the hidden work is complete. And my beloved, that time is closer than you think. Much closer. The hidden season is ending. The preparation is complete. The roots are deep. The foundation is strong. The lessons have been learned. The person has been transformed. And now the world is about to witness what heaven has been building. Not because you forced it, not because you chased it, not because you demanded it, but because my timing has arrived. And when people see your rise, they will think the miracle is your elevation. But you will know the truth. The real miracle happened long before that. The real miracle happened when you kept believing during the silence, when you kept trusting during the waiting, when you kept walking during the uncertainty, when you became the person I created you to be. That was the miracle. That is the testimony. That is the story. And that story is still being written. So lift your head, my child. Your hidden season was not wasted. Your tears were not wasted. Your waiting was not wasted. Your pain was not wasted. Everything had purpose. Everything had meaning. Everything was preparing you for this moment. And now, as this chapter closes, remember this forever. The people who ignored you will soon watch you rise. But your rise is not the greatest victory. The greatest victory is that the hidden season transformed you into someone capable of carrying the blessing when it arrived. Amen. If this message spoke to your heart, comment Amen. My hidden season is ending. And share this message with someone who needs to hear it today. God is not finished with your story. He is just beginning to reveal what He was doing all along.